Thanks for your company on Asia First. Hong Kong Airlines is under more pressure after another of its jets was delayed for 6 hours on the tarmac in Tokyo. This was because of missing screws which fell off a wing. And this is the seventh such incident in 4 days where its jets had missing parts upon arrival for flights between Tokyo and Hong Kong.
Well, for more on this story, let's go to Hong Kong right now, where Roland Lim is standing by. And Roland, such a harrowing time for those passengers, not to mention that 6-hour delay. And for the airline itself, the timing couldn't have been worse.
Yeah, Hong Kong's air transport license regulator recently publicly expressed grave concerns over Hong Kong Airlines' financial health. This after it was sued by two companies for more than $19 million in unpaid fees for rented planes. The company has already cut the number of flights it flies from 38 to 28 to get it back on firmer financial footing. And it's also been reported that its external auditor, PwC, has resigned on top of internal disputes within the boardroom. So yesterday, a Hong Kong airline plane spent 6 hours on the tarmac in Tokyo after two screws reportedly fell out of a wing. Passengers forced to remain, as you say, in the aircraft throughout that delay until that problem was fixed. The flight should have taken off at 4 p.m. local time, but left just after 10 p.m. instead. Now, Hong Kong Airlines, in its defense, says that the plane had been previously cleared to fly and that the missing screws didn't pose any risk. It does seem, however, that Japan's transport authority takes missing parts seriously, whether it poses a risk to operational safety or not. Spot inspection by Japan's Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport, which oversees civil aviation, uncovered 6 instances, as you say, between May 26th and May 28th, where Hong Kong airline aircrafts were found to have missing parts, and that's according to local public broadcaster NHK. The SCMP also reporting that the Civil Aviation Bureau, that's Japan's aviation regulator, it said that the missing parts in this case was not critical to the plane's safety, but it added it was concerned about the issue. Missing parts, surprisingly, is common in the aviation sector, but in this particular case, the items actually couldn't be found, and hence the delay. The Civil Aviation Bureau then went on to say that it will not punish Hong Kong Airlines but has ordered other carriers to conduct mandatory inspections of their planes.
I'm not sure how reassuring it's going to be for these passengers, you know.
Well, at least they're doing mandatory inspections. I mean, that's really important this day and age. Roland, thanks very much for that. That was Roland Lim coming to us live from Hong Kong. Well, continuing to talk aviation, France's Airbus is 50 years old, and it had plans for a fly past of staff at its Toulouse headquarters. 6 jets spanning its commercial line were scheduled to fly over the base, escorted by the French Patrol, the aerobatic display team of the French Air Force.
But cloudy weather forced the airline to cancel the show at the last minute. At 50, Airbus is embroiled in a management upheaval amid an ongoing corruption investigation.
Well, another airline in trouble is Indonesia's Garuda. Australia's competition regulator has fined the airline little over $13 million for price fixing between 2003 and 2006. Well, joining us for more on the show this morning is Topi, who is a CEO of Finnair, and he's with us here in Singapore. Topi, welcome to Singapore. Great to see you today. As Airbus marks its 50th anniversary, and unfortunately, of course, if it wasn't for that weather disruption, we would have seen that amazing fly past with its family of aircraft. In your mind, how significant is this milestone for the aviation industry, for the airline industry, and Europe's industrialization?
Well, first of all, good morning to you as well, Adam, and good morning to you both. And congratulations to Airbus, obviously. I mean, it's a big day for Airbus, and as an airline, we run an all Airbus fleet. So Airbus is a very important partner for us, and we were the launch carrier for Airbus 350 in Europe, and we have very good experiences about it. I mean, Airbus, of course, has a important significance for the industry at large in Europe, and it is investing a lot in R&D, in technology, and spearheading the sort of R&D development across the aviation industry.
And Topi, you know, developing an aviation industry takes, of course, a lot of resources, a lot of challenges, is very, very capital intensive, and essentially has led to a duopoly of the majors, Airbus and Boeing, notwithstanding, of course, we've got some makers in Japan, Brazil, Canada, and now China's developing its own industry. But in light of Boeing's recent 737 MAX debacle, are you concerned as a CEO of an airline that is only running Airbus aircraft? Because if the shoe was on the other foot, what would have happened to your operations? And I do ask this of all airlines that have only one single aircraft maker in their fleet.
Yeah. Well, first of all, when it comes to the MAX 8 situation, I mean, as stated, we don't operate Boeing aircraft, so we are observing that situation from the outside. But when it comes to the sort of overall situation with different manufacturers in the aviation industry, I mean, needless to say that it is important for global aviation and for the airlines that there are multiple providers and there's healthy competition in terms of manufacturing in this industry. And that is important to be secured also going forward.
Speaking of going forward, Topi, I noticed Finnair has partnered with a second Chinese carrier in recent weeks. But there is also a sense that these Chinese carriers are collaborators as much as they are your competitors. What is the game plan here for cracking the Chinese market?
Yeah, I mean, as an airline, we are all about connecting Europe and Asia via the short northern route, utilizing the optimal geographical position of Helsinki as our hub. We have 100 destinations in Europe, 19 destinations in Asia, and these codeshare partnerships that we have been recently releasing with China Southern on one hand and with Juneyao on the other hand are important steps forward for us in the Chinese market. So we are in it for long run in the Chinese market, and we go for sustainable growth in that market. And as stated, these are important stepping stones for that going forward.
And part of the stepping stone is, of course, your digitalization strategy. But there is mixed success so far with streamlining the platform, say, with local payment methods. What is the approach that you're coming with this digital strategy then?
Yeah, I mean, digital transformation is one of the cornerstones for our strategy. We have been investing a lot in that space in the past, and we will continue to do so going forward. We believe that digitalization brings better customer experience, better people experience, better employee experience, and productivity. And we have a track record of being a front runner in terms of digital innovation. As one example, we were the first airline in the world, including the Chinese carriers, introducing Alipay as a payment method on board our flights. And another example would be that all of our employees in Finnair, you know, from cabin crew members to technicians at technical services, have smartphones and apps in the smartphones that make the work easier, improve the teamwork, improve the customer experience and productivity.
Can you share with us on the artificial intelligence? We hear you have some plans in that regard as well.
Absolutely. I mean, artificial intelligence, robotics, automation, all of these things, biometrics, I mean, these are exciting technologies, and we see a lot of use cases for those in the future. And also at present, I mean, one of the examples would be that we have now an early sort of a use case for artificial intelligence, very precise 36-hour weather forecast that especially in the weather conditions of Finland during the winter time has been improving our punctuality and reliability already a great deal.
Yeah, I've been a victim of that, traveling in Europe and also particularly in America, you know, where flights have been canceled. So, I mean, you know, the technology is a great welcome if it can improve, of course, the planning. Speaking of a competitive edge, Topi, you know, what else does Finnair bring to the table, especially in a region, a fast-growing region like the Asia-Pacific, where Asians are really developing a thirst for travel, and it's in its infancy so far. So growth is quite robust in terms of its outlook. But the challenge here in capturing the Asian travelers is the fact that, quite frankly, we're all quite spoiled. I mean, we're used to premium cabin products from the Asian carriers.
Especially here in Singapore.
Especially here in Singapore. And, of course, the service that comes along with it, and that often developed world airlines struggle to compete against. So what is the competitive edge that Finnair brings as it tries to capture growth in the Asia-Pacific region?
Yeah. We are one of the 5-star airlines out there, and we operate one of the most modern long-haul fleets in global aviation with our Airbus 350 fleet. So we have a premium product, and I'm sure that that is appealing to the needs of Asian customers. And we bring along the best connectivity to Europe, especially to the Northern Europe. And we see that, you know, the well-traveled consumers of Asia Pacific and specifically Singapore have a growing interest toward the Nordics. I mean, it's about the pure nature, you know, the magic of the winter, the northern lights, the cleanest air in the world, the authentic experience of the Nordics with character that interests people. And for example, from Singapore, when I look at the next winter, our sort of pre-bookings are going up by 1/3, so 33%, and that is a sign of interest to the Nordics, and also a sign of growth opportunity that we see on this market.
Cleanest air in the world, and by some rankings, happiest country in the world as well, with Finland. But Topi, bring us back to this conversation about the competition. When we look at the competitors, say the Chinese or the Gulf carriers that have that foothold on the Asian market, they have the backing to some extent from their governments. How does this affect the confidence that Finnair has in competing against them?
Yeah, well, first of all, you are spot on. We are happy people, so that's and happy people equal happy customers. So come and experience. I would like to invite you to the Nordics. When it comes to the competition, of course, we see increasing competition, especially from the Chinese carriers, but so far it has been, you know, growing pretty much hand in hand with the increasing demand that we see from China to Europe, and then therefore, you know, from a market dynamic perspective, the situation would be stable. And as stated, we feel that we would be competitive with our product, with our customer service, and therefore. In terms of our strategy, we continue to double down on our strategy of connecting Europe and Asia.
Right, Topi, it was a great pleasure to be chatting with you, and welcome to Singapore, and April and I, and I'm sure
we look forward to
visiting the Nordics.
I actually have been to Rovaniemi to visit the Arctic Circle. Beautiful. Yeah, I didn't catch the Northern Lights, but it was very, very pretty.
Bit cold, but we'll make it there sometime, Topi. Thanks very much. Maybe on your A350. It'll be
thank you
nice
both.
Journey
thank
there.
you, and
Thank you.
I stated welcome. Welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
That was Topi Manner, the CEO of Finnair, talking to us about, of course, the prospects for travel and building their market share here in the Asia-Pacific region.